My cats know something I don't. By Redditor Ilex311. I'm not even sure where to start with this. How do you explain something when you don't even understand it yourself? If my cats could type, they would tell you exactly what's going on, but they can't. So I'll try my best. 7 years ago, my mom's friend had an accidental litter of cats. My sister and I had always wanted a pet, and so she asked if we could have any of the kittens. Her friend agreed and even let us have the pick of the litter. I was disappointed because I had wanted a dog, but when I saw the kittens I was instantly smitten. They were purebred Siamese cats, though I couldn't care less about that, and there were 7 of them in total. I had picked out the kitten I wanted within minutes, simply because there was only one that was the color and gender I wanted. My sister took a longer time to decide, but eventually we were on our way home with 2 new members of the family. We named them Sierra and Nev. That was 7 years ago. Since then my parents have split and my mom moved out of state. My sister and I stayed behind to live with my dad, and the cats stayed with us. My dad got remarried and things were pretty normal up until about 3 weeks ago. Sierra and Nev both have this weird habit of sniffing people before they let someone touch them. It doesn't matter how long you've known them or if you were petting them just a few minutes ago. They always pull away and sniff you before letting you touch them. None of us really gave it much thought. After all, aren't cats supposed to be a little weird? Plus they had never reacted negatively to anyone, so it wasn't really a big deal and we all just got used to it. That is until one night my dad came home from work about a half hour late. We weren't overly worried, but it was kinda weird that he hadn't called to tell us like he usually would. My stepmom scolded him. He shrugged it off and gave her some excuse about an annoying customer keeping him late. I believed him then, but now I'm not so sure. This is because after my stepmom left the room he reached down to pet Nev. Per usual, she pulled her head back and sniffed him. Except this time, rather than letting him, she hissed and ran away. My dad watched her jump up onto the cat stand in the other room and then turned to me. "What's got her tail in a knot?" he asked jokingly. I wasn't sure how to respond, so I just laughed awkwardly. I guess he was satisfied with that because he disappeared into his bedroom. Both Sierra and Nev sat guard at the foot of my bed that night. When I woke up the next morning I had practically forgotten about what happened. I got up and went to the kitchen where my dad was making breakfast. He smiled when he saw me and handed me a plate of scrambled eggs. I thanked him and sat down to eat. After a couple minutes my sister and my stepmom had joined me at the table. As my dad was moving to join us, Sierra leaped up onto his chair. She stared at him, and then laid down as if she were claiming the seat. He bent down to pick her up, but before he could grab her she sprinted away with her tail fluffed up like she was scared of something. This behavior continued for about 2 weeks. I started to notice some strange things about my dad then. For one, he didn't seem to breathe normally. Have you ever pretended to be asleep? He was breathing like that, slow, deep breaths that almost seemed forceful at times. I don't think anyone else in the family noticed it, but I'm sure I'm not imagining things. The other day I caught him sitting in the living room. He was just staring at the cats with a blank expression. My poor babies were huddled in a corner with every strand of fur puffed out. They looked terrified, but they never moved. It was like they were trapped in his gaze. When I looked closer, I noticed that he wasn't blinking. I tried to act normal when I entered the room. "Hey Dad. What's up?" The moment his eyes left the cats they both took off in the direction of my bedroom. They were practically tripping over each other in their haste. I felt my heart drop at their reaction. They had never been very brave, but they certainly weren't cowards either. I tried to make small talk, but my heart was beating so fast and I was starting to tremble in fear. I excused myself and looked for my cats. I found them huddled under my bed. They wouldn't even come out for treats. As bad as all that sounds, I'm afraid it gets worse. Yesterday my stepmom tried to brush Nev. As soon as Nev had given her hand a sniff, the fur on her tail puffed out and she hissed. I'm scared. Not only for myself, but for my sister, Nev, and Sierra too. I don't know what's going on. I don't think that these are my parents. I know I sound crazy, but I don't know what else to think. What are they and what do they want? If the cats hadn't acted so different, would I have been able to tell that something was wrong? I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore. Unfortunately, the situation deteriorated quickly. I didn't see either of the cats for a couple hours after making the first post. I had some music on and was trying to read a book, but there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind that told me something was wrong. I ignored it for as long as I could, but inevitably I had to check things out. I walked through the whole house and found absolutely nothing out of place. I was headed back to my room when I heard a growl from the living room. I froze and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. It sounded canine-like, and for a moment I thought it was our dog, Sitka. Then I remembered he died 3 years ago. I cautiously peeked around the corner and my hand flew over my mouth to stop the scream that fought to escape my throat. My stepmom was there, only it wasn't her. The left half of her face had morphed into something I can't explain. It was covered in what looked like black fur, but it didn't shine like normal fur. It was like light couldn't touch it except for strange bald spots and weird designs that looked too precise to be natural. Then again, nothing about this thing was natural. The bald spots had a weird glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Long fangs protruded out of its mouth and its lips were pulled back in a snarl. Beady red eyes were trained on a small mask cowering against the wall. My heart sank when I realized it was Sierra. I was terrified, but I love my cats so much. I couldn't let whatever this stupid hellbeast Skinwalker hurt her. I entered the living room dramatically and forced a smile. The second I did so, the other half of my stepmom's face seemed to crawl back into place. She turned to me and smiled back. "Hey hun, what's up?" Her voice sounded perfectly normal. Had I not witnessed half her face literally crawl into place, I wouldn't have guessed anything was wrong. My heart pounded in my ears and my blood ran cold as I noticed she wasn't breathing. I just found out that when a cat blinks slowly at you, it's a sign of affection. Isn't that cool? Thank you whoever commented that, by the way. I guess so. They're just animals though, sweetie. They probably don't have feelings like we do. The imposter replied. A smile was still painted on her face, but the more I looked at it, the more I felt creeped out. What she said rang some serious alarm bells. My stepmom has always believed that all animals have feelings just like we do. I glanced over to where Sierra had been crouched, and thankfully she was gone. I hope she found good hiding spot. Stepping backwards slowly, I nodded my head. Yeah, but it's cool to think about. My voice was wobbly and my vision started to blur with tears. I was so scared, and now that I knew my parents were truly gone, I felt a loss so great it nearly took my breath away. Before the abomination pretending to be my stepmom could say anything else, I turned and bolted. I didn't stop running until I made it into my room and shut the door. I spent the next few hours sobbing uncontrollably into my pillow. I know it wasn't the most productive thing to do, but I felt so overwhelmed with so many emotions that it was hard to breathe. When I had finally calmed down, I concocted a plan to escape the horror house that used to be my home. I had gotten my driver's license recently, and I knew exactly where to find the car keys. I just had to figure out how to get everyone past those demons. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out into the hallway and made my way to my sister's room. She was on FaceTime with one of her friends, and I was relieved to see both cats were curled up next to her. I closed the door as softly as I could before aggressively mouthing "put it on mute" at her. Usually she gives me crap about interrupting her, but I'm sure my puffy red eyes gave her an idea it was important. It was lucky that her friend was in the middle of telling a story. Her voice was loud enough to overpower our whispers if the creatures were trying to listen. I went into her closet and pulled out a big red purse she had bought a couple years ago because it was on sale and she thought it made her look older. After I scooped up my kitties and secured them in the purse, I handed it to her. "Take them to your hiding place. Stay there until I come and get you." Her face paled and she clutched the purse tightly. I was worried she might not remember where that was, but a slow nod confirmed that she did. I felt bad for scaring her, but this was the best plan I could think of. In our basement there's a mini door. It's like a random little cupboard in the wall. If you've ever seen the movie Coraline, it's very similar to that one. When we used to play hide and seek, my sister would squeeze herself inside and shut the door. She was impossible to find until I figured out where she was going. I was never able to fit in there. I prayed that they would. The car keys were hanging in the hallway leading to the front door. If I could just grab them, I knew there was a window in the basement we could escape from. I moved as slowly and quietly as possible. My breathing sounded so loud in the silence, so I held my breath. I made it to the keys and let out a huge sigh of relief. I thought I was in the clear. Turning around, I was suddenly face to face with the creature that looked like my father. He shook his head at me and a rumbling sound came from deep in his throat. I swear I've never run faster in my whole life than I did when I ran from him. I took the stairs 2 at a time as I fled to the basement. Grabbing the handle of the mini door, I yanked it open and grabbed my sister. She started to cry. I looked around frantically for something heavy to break the window with, but I couldn't find anything. The sound of footsteps coming down the stairs sent me into full-on fight or flight mode. I bashed my shoulder into the window until it cracked, and then I kicked out the glass. I shoved my sister out with the bag that held Sierra and Neve just in time to see 2 shadows approaching us. I know it would be a better story if I had tried to kill them or even just gotten a good look at their true faces, but the only thoughts going through my head were to get the hell out of there. I dragged my sister into the car and put the pedal to the metal. I glanced into the rearview mirror to see them standing in the road watching us leave. An eerie howl pierced my ears and I had to fight hard not to look back again. Now you're all caught up. I'm sitting in the car in a gas station parking lot typing this up on my phone. My sister is asleep in the back seat. Neve and Sierra are right by her. I'm pretty sure my shoulder is dislocated. We're going to find our mom. Hopefully, I won't ever have any more to share with you.